Hi, my name is Sophia Borley, and for the Macronutrient video project, I picked to discuss the importance of lipids. So what are lipids? Lipids are a class of nutrients commonly called fats that include saturated fats or unsaturated fats, phospholipids, and cholesterol. All of these are not water-soluble. They are all composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms, and the fats in our diet contribute to the aroma, flavor, and texture of our foods. For example, if you were to drink a glass of low-fat milk and compared it to a glass of whole milk, you would be able to tell the difference in the texture and the flavor just because of the reduction of fat. Also, lipids, when compared to carbohydrates and proteins, pack a lot more calories because carbohydrates and proteins have 4 calories per gram, and lipids have 9 calories per gram. So if you were to eat a diet that's high in lipids and lower in carbs and proteins, you would actually need to eat probably less or smaller portions of food because you'd already be gaining the required calories each day through just the lipids. So the next point I'm going to talk about is why are lipids important. So in the body, lipids are used to store energy. They are also used as insulators, and they're also used in cell membranes. So in our body, basically every single part of our body is made of cells, and all of these cells have cell membranes, which are composed of lipids. And along with that, certain hormones, including sex hormones, are made from a lipid called cholesterol, which we'll all discuss later. And fat is also useful when it comes to storing energy in the body. So the body uses a thin layer of fat under your skin, and this fat also helps with insulation by regulating body temperature, which has to do with homeostasis. And there's also a thin layer of fat called adipose tissue that protects vital organs, but this is also where triglycerides can be stored to be used later on as energy if they're needed. So this is what a cell membrane looks like. So the phospholipids are these orange and green figures here on the screen. So there is a hydrophilic end and a hydrophobic end. And the hydrophilic end is the part that likes water, and the hydrophobic end is the part that does not like water. So this part is the part that's outside of a cell, on the outside of the cell. So when there are cells in your bloodstream, which is an aqueous solution, there's water in it. The hydrophilic ends, or the parts down here with lipids on them, are protected from the water because they are inside the hydrophobic heads of phospholipids. So yeah, the head is water soluble and the tails are fat soluble. Adipose tissue, as I mentioned before, is also referred to as body fat, and this is what actually grows when you gain weight because it's where triglycerides are stored, and these cells get smaller when triglyceride storage depletes or when someone loses weight. So triglycerides are also stored in droplets, so that's how they're stored in your body. You can kind of see it like the right here, the little droplets. These are what get bigger as you gain weight, and then they shrink down to more like this when you lose weight. So there are types of lipids. There are 4 main types of lipids. There are triglycerides, phospholipids, fatty acids, and sterols. So first off, the importance of triglycerides is that they are the major type of lipids in foods and the body, and they consist of 3 fatty acids attached to a glycerol molecule. So right here we can see that it is made of hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. And this right here is the glycerol backbone, and then these are the fatty acids attached, and this is what in turn forms a triglyceride, and this is what's used to store fats in the body. There's also this slide about the importance of phospholipids, and again it's just kind of showing you the cell membrane and how the phospholipids interact with water. And they're also emulsifiers. They can be used in different kinds of foods, like when you're baking. A lot of the times when you're baking, there are eggs added into like cakes and cookies, because the liquids and the fats don't like to mix because they're hydrophobic. So emulsifiers allow them to mix. To continue on the discussion of phospholipids, they also have stabilizing and dynamic qualities. Phospholipids can be found in foods like meats, eggs, seeds, and oils and seafoods, and they're also found in some plants, but in smaller amounts. And then lecithin, which is a phospholipid, makes up much of the cell membrane, and it also synthesizes acetylcholine. I was just talking about this earlier today in my A&P lecture this morning. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter, so the phospholipids are definitely necessary for the nervous system to be working properly. Next up, we have the importance of fatty acids. So again, fatty acids are used to store energy, and they are also membrane constituents, so they are part of the cell membrane in all the cells in our bodies. And they are classified depending on if they have carbon-carbon double bonds. So they are unsaturated if they contain one or more double bonds. You can see it right here. This one right here has a double bond, which makes it has a bend in it, makes it a little bit bent. So this is unsaturated. And then a saturated fatty acid doesn't have any of these doubles, so it's just all single carbon bonds. Saturated fatty acids are solid at room temperature, so an example of this would be fat on the outside of steak, and then an unsaturated fat would be liquid at room temperature, and an example of that would be vegetable oil. So the next thing we have is the importance of sterols, and sterols, the most important kind is cholesterol, and this is found in animal products. So there are small amounts of like plant sterols, but they are found in very small amounts, and they're harder for the body to break down. Cholesterol is not essential in the diet because the liver manufactures it, so you don't really have to eat much cholesterol because your body already produces it. 90% of cholesterol is found in cell membrane. It's also found in myelin, which is an insulator that's in your neurons, in your nervous system. And cholesterol is also necessary to synthesize sterols like vitamin D, bile acids, cortisol, and reproductive hormones. Cortisol has to do with your response to stress, and reproductive hormones would be estrogen and testosterone. So this is the structure of a sterol. It shows here that there are 4 interconnected rings of carbon atoms that form the backbone structure, and this is common to all sterols. So that's all I have on lipids, and I hope you learned something. Have a nice night.